Hello! You are watching Robotics Lesson with RoboCamp Part 4. This means that we have already covered the introduction to this lesson, we have also built the robot and understood how is it supposed to work. Now, all that's left to do is to create a program for it and watch this robotic gorilla come alive. If you want to complete this lesson stage with me, here's what you will need. First and foremost, you will need your robotic gorilla. Mine is standing right here. And remember that to activate the robot, you will also need to have charged batteries inside the smart hub. The other thing you will need is, of course, the programming app that is Scratch. Remember that in order for Scratch to work with LEGO WeDo 2.0, you need to prepare it beforehand. Now, if you are not sure how to do this exactly, please watch some of our other videos where we explain step by step how to do this on various devices. Now, finally, you will need your device. It can be a tablet, laptop, or a PC. Now, if you are a parent or a teacher, remember that all the instructions you see behind me, you can access them too. If you're interested to learn more about this or discover more lesson plans for robotics and coding for kids, head to robocamp.eu. The link is in the description. And now, let's start coding. The first program version we create for the gorilla will be quite simple, but at the same time it will allow us to check if everything is alright with the construction. Here's what we will do. We will activate the motor, thus making the gorilla walk forward, whenever the movement of the branch with bananas is detected. And it will be quite easy to program because we have a tilt sensor underneath the bananas. So the first block we need to add is the when tilted any block. This way this script will activate when any change in tilt is detected. You can find this block in the WeDo 2.0 category, right here. Let's find it and add it to the programming area. You can add a block to the programming area by simply dropping it right here. Okay, so what should happen next? Of course, like I've already said, we need to activate the motor. But by activating the motor, we actually need to determine several parameters. Now, whenever you're working with motor, it's important to consider in which direction it should rotate and also with how much power it should be activated. In our case, the motor should be rotating this way at power level of 80%. So let's find two blocks that will allow us to set all those parameters for the motor. The first one is set motor direction 2 and also can be found in LEGO WeDo 2.0 category. Now let's find set motor power 2 and add it to the script. Now, if we were to leave it at 100%, as you can see is by default on my tablet, well, then it would be a bit too much, a bit too fast for the gorilla. So let's change it to 80%. Okay, now the motor is activated, but this way, if we leave the program as it is, the gorilla would never stop walking. So let's add one more block. This one will allow us to define for how long the motor should be running, that is, for how long the gorilla should be walking. So let's find turn motor on 4 block. It's right here at the top. Let's change it to 3 seconds. Okay. Now, this simple program is already something that we can test with the robot. It will allow us to check if the motor, the sensor is working properly, and also if we have assembled the entire robot with no mistakes. So now, let's proceed to testing the program. To test the program written in Scratch on your WeDo robot, you need to connect the two via Bluetooth. So let me show you how to do this. First thing you want to do is open the connection window in Scratch. To do this, go to WeDo 2.0 category, and on top above the blocks you can see this orange exclamation mark. Click on it. You will see this window appear. Now is the time to activate the Smart Hub. To activate Smart Hub, press this green button on top, and as soon as it starts flashing, select Start Searching. Okay, now wait until the connection is established, and as soon as it is connected, we can go back to the editor. My robot and Scratch are now connected, so the only thing left to do is to activate the script. But before we do that, let's try to understand what is about to happen. First of all, when will the script be activated? Well, according to the code block that I used in my script, it should become active whenever the sensor hidden right here underneath those bananas is tilted in any direction, forward, back, left, right. Then, if that condition is fulfilled, the motor will also activate. It will start rotating this way with 80% of power for exactly 3 seconds. And thanks to all the connections we have in the robot, this should make the gorilla move forward. Let's see if that's really what happens. Okay. Okay, as you can see, my desk is quite slippery, so let me show you how this gorilla walks like on a slightly different surface. This is actually the back of my mouse pad. Okay, there you go. Okay, as you can see, the program is working as we intended. Okay, now that testing is over, I will disconnect the Smart Hub so that I don't waste the batteries unnecessarily. And as you could see, my testing phase went without any problems, and this is good news. This means that I can expand this simple program into something more interesting, more amazing for this particular robot. Now, if you had any problems with the sensor or the motor, an easy fix is to unplug the cables right next to the Smart Hub and plug them back in. This should solve most of your problems. However, if the program activated but the gorilla still had problems walking, this means that something may be wrong with the construction itself. So I would encourage you now to go back to the second or third part of this lesson to compare your construction with the instructions themselves and see if any parts are out of place or just connected slightly differently. And I'm sure this will solve all your problems. And if your testing phase went just as smoothly as mine, this means that it's time to expand this program. I'll see you. So far, we have created a simple program for the gorilla which activated the motor whenever the sensor was tilted in any direction. Now we will create an entire routine for the gorilla. We'll create a very much food-driven gorilla. Here's how it will go. Whenever the gorilla does not see or detect any bananas, it will take a nap. We will know it's napping because we will hear the sound of snoring. Now, once those bananas are detected, two things will happen. First, the gorilla will start walking towards the bananas and it will also start eating them. And we will know that because we will hear the sound of munching. Okay, so in other words, we will have two separate scripts activated by one event. Now, this means that we need to modify the program that we have already created. Now, it shouldn't be started with when tilted any block, so we can remove it just by moving it right here into the blocks palette. Instead, we will use the broadcast and receive message blocks, okay, to manage all those separate scripts. And as you already know, this one should be activated later on. So it should be activated by when I receive block. Let's find it in the events category and add it to this script at the very beginning. Okay, you can leave this name of this message as it is. I'm going to change mine to bananas. Okay. Next, we will create the main script. Now, this is the script that will produce the sound of snoring. This is the one that will check the tilt of the sensor. And this is also the script which will broadcast the message to all the other parts of the program. Now, this means that it should be activated from the very beginning, which is why this script should begin with when green flag started block. When the green flag clicked block. But we can find it in the events category. So let's go here and take this block and drag it to the programming area. Okay. Now, before we use any sounds in Scratch, we actually need to prepare them, select them from the library. So that's what we're going to do right now. Now, we need to take care of two sounds. The first one is snoring, okay? So first, let's find it in the library. We need to first go to another tab called Sounds. We can delete the meowing sound because after all, our gorilla is not going to meow. Now, in the bottom left part, you can see this small blue icon. Here you can choose a new sound. Now, the fastest way is to just type it into the search bar. Snoring. Okay, here we go. Here's how it sounds like. Okay, you can hear it. It's a pretty funny sound. However, we're going to actually do something with it. We're going to alter it a bit to better fit the behavior of our gorilla. We need to cut out the second part, okay, and fade out the sound of it. So let's do this. Okay, first let's select the second part of the script. Not the script, of the sound. Okay, like so, and delete. Now I will play it to see how it sounds like. Okay, it's pretty loud. If we want to repeat it to create this impression of the gorilla snoring, it makes sense to fade it out a bit. Okay, yeah. Okay, now make sure you do this with your sound too. And if you remember, we need to add one more sound because we're going to need one more sound in our program, the sound of munching, of eating the bananas. And for this purpose, we will use the bite sound. This means that we need to add one more sound from the library. Let's do this. The second one is called bite. And it's right here. Okay, here's how it sounds like. Okay, now we don't need to alter this one, okay? So we can just simply return to the code tab where our programs are. The main script is responsible for playing the snoring sound, so of course now we need to add a code block that will play this sound. And we can find it, of course, in the sound category of blocks, so let's go there. And select block play sound until done. Let's add it to the main script. Okay, you can see that by default here I have bite, so I need to open this list and select snoring. Now, of course, if we leave it as it is, this script would play the sound just once. And we all know that whenever people or gorillas snore, they usually repeat this sound many times over, which is why we will put this code block in a forever loop. This means that this loop will keep on repeating this sound forever or until we stop the program. Let's find it in the control category of blocks. Let's take it right here and make sure it is wrapped around play sound snoring until done block. Now, another block we want to include here is a wait seconds block. After all, we want to have just a tiny pause between those snores. Otherwise, this would be very tedious to listen to. So let's add wait seconds block. And let's leave it as it is. 1 second is enough. The gorilla is now sleeping peacefully and snoring loudly too, but we don't want it to sleep on forever. We actually want it to stop sleeping when the bananas are detected. So we need to use the repeat until loop with an exit condition, okay? And for this one, we will use exactly the same one as in the very simple version of the program. That is the tilt of the sensor right here. So whenever we shake this branch of bananas, that's when our gorilla friend here should stop sleeping and go after those bananas. So let's find those two blocks. First, let's take care of the repeat until loop from the control category. Now notice that this loop is placed inside the forever loop, but wrapped around all those play, sound, and wait blocks too. Now, in the repeat until loop, you can see that there is this empty space, okay? This is the space for the condition. And in our case, the condition for exiting this loop is, well, any movement, any tilt of the tilt sensor. So let's go to WeDo 2.0 category and find tilted any block. You'll notice that it has a slightly different shape, okay? This means that it is supposed to be used as a condition. Okay, so let's take it and place it right inside this condition field. Whenever the bananas are shaken, that is detected, well, the gorilla should stop sleeping and start walking. So somehow we need to connect this script to the first one that we have created. And we can do this very easily with a broadcast message block. So let's find this one in the events category. And broadcast block. Let's add it inside the forever loop, but after below repeat until loop, right here. Now, in my case, I want to broadcast the message called bananas because this is also the same one which activates this motor script that I've created previously. However, if you have another message, just make sure that those two are identical. Okay, now there's one more block that we need to add to the main script. We actually need to add this pause of 3 seconds because this way we avoid this unfortunate event of, well, two scripts overlapping. We don't want the gorilla to keep on walking and snoring at the same time. It makes no sense. This is why we will add this pause inside the forever loop right below the broadcast message block. Let's find it in the control category. And instead of 1 second, let's make the program wait 3 seconds because this is exactly for how long this gorilla will be walking in the first script. The main script and the script responsible for walking are now complete, but there's one more script that we need to make this program for the gorilla complete. The one that will actually play the sound of gorilla munching, biting those bananas. Now, it should be activated at the same time as the motor script, which is why it should start with the same block. It should be activated by the same message. So let's find the starting block in the events category. When I receive bananas. Bananas in my case, message 1 in the case of instructions. In your case, just remember to have one identical message throughout this program. What block should be in this message? Well, of course, one of the sound category because we want to play this biting sound. Okay, so let's select play sound until done. And select bite. However, you might remember that this sound is very short, okay? But the motor will be running for 3 seconds. Well, the bite sound is much shorter than that. So how can we fill the void? Well, actually, we can repeat this sound several times to make it more believable. Okay, so let's go to the control category, take the repeat loop, and place it around play sound until done block. Now 10 is way too much, so let's change it to 6. Repeating it 6 times should be enough. And to make this more believable, we will also add a teeny pause between those sound repetitions. This can be found, the wait block can be found in the control category. Place it below play sound until done, but inside the repeat loop, okay? Now 1 second will be too much. After all, the motor is running only for 3 seconds. So we will actually change it to 0.2 of a second. All right. And now everyone, the program for the robotic gorilla is complete. Now, of course, we're not done yet because now is the time to test this program in practice and see how the robot works like. This is how the complete program for the robotic gorilla should look like. Good job! As you can see, it's a bit complex, okay? It's composed of one main script and two additional ones. The first one responsible for making the gorilla walk, and the other for the sounds of munching, of biting into the bananas. But of course, this is only theory. To see how this program works like in practice, we need to test it, and I need to prepare my workstation a bit. Now my gorilla has a bit more traction, so let's activate the program and see how it works. Okay, the gorilla is soundly asleep, as you can hear, but what happens once I shake the branch with the bananas? Okay. Okay, the branch is no longer moving, which is why the gorilla is sound asleep too. Let's try this once again. Okay, let's try this again. Okay. I have already stopped my program, but I think we can count this one as a success. The robot acted exactly as we intended it to, which means that the program worked well. And now it's the time for you to test your programs with your robots. Now compare your program to mine, make sure that all the blocks have all the parameters as intended, and then proceed to testing. Now make sure if you have any problems with motors and sensor, remember to unplug the cable and plug them back in. Also, it may happen that your tilt sensor is very sensitive. It's okay, it sometimes happens when working with sensors. Now in this case, it might happen that this robot activates but does not stop. The gorilla keeps on walking after those bananas. If that's the case, you may want to change one of the parameters in the program. Instead, in the main script, instead of repeat until tilted any, change the any to any other position, maybe left or right, and see how this acts like. Now, thank you so much for being here with this on this lesson with me. I hope you've learned something, but most importantly, I hope you've had fun. So thank you so much. I think you've done really great, and I hope you will take some time to experiment with this robot and play with it too. Thank you so much. If you enjoyed this lesson, leave us a thumbs up. This will let us know that you like this content and want to see more of it. And if you would like to explore more lessons on your own, head to robocamp.eu. That's where you can find more robots, more programs, more lessons, okay? So thank you once again, and I hope you have an awesome day. Bye!